random airman killer doesn't fit. The Yakuza, I don't really get it.
That's why
The skaters and the bikers,
One of the interesting things about it is one of the theories that you always go to when people get stabbed, especially like this, a very personal kind of murder, is sexual jealousy. You always look at ex-boyfriends, ex-girlfriends, things like that, and that doesn't seem to have been considered in this case.
Yeah, I would agree with
that. Well, the thing about it is the other thing is it's been assumed from the get-go that the killer was a man. Now, imagine the killer was a woman.
Yeah, imagine that.
Yeah, imagine that. And this woman deliberately wears men's clothes there, leaves them behind, knowing that the Japanese police are going to believe from the get-go that it was a guy that did it. Because, I mean, who can come into this place and overpower and stab a guy and stab a family to death, you know? It's going to be a guy. And, of course, this person doesn't, this woman, let's just assume for the sake of fun, it's a woman, just says, hey, you know, I'm going to really cater to their assumptions and leave some clues that it was a guy here. And so I'm going to leave all these men's clothes and stuff. I'm going to go take a crap and not flush it because women flush the toilet.
Right.
You know,
dudes
guys,
don't.
Yeah, dudes don't always.
Yeah.
Women always do.
True.
So I'm going to pull this dude stunt and take a dump and leave it sitting there just like a dude.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's other things that make me wonder. I mean, the wife was stabbed, and the daughter, especially the wife, apparently was stabbed a lot more.
Brutalized.
Than anybody else. Which indicates to me maybe a little psycho jealousy going on there.
Yeah.
The cleanup. Now, the average guy, if he finds he's running out of bandages and still bleeding, the average guy is not necessarily going to think to go get out the sanitary napkins. But a woman would.
Yeah.
And best of all, this person would have the motive. Even it does not appear to have been investigated because it appears that it was assumed from the get-go that it was a guy that did this.
Culturally, that may be a cultural reason, and it could be a failing on the Japanese police.
It's not just a cultural reason.
Well, but I was going to say is that, you know, there has been criticism of the Japanese police because they have an amazing investigative team, an amazing forensic team, but they have no experience because this kind of thing almost never happens, which is terrible because on the flip side, in the States, you know, there's a bunch of places where our investigative capacity blow, our forensic capacity blow, but we see stuff like this all the time, and so we're really good at figuring out where it came from. So it's kind of it's a back and forth, but I mean we could keep going.
I'm in with Joe. 100%. Like
I think it probably was a jealous girlfriend. Or former girlfriend, something.
Or a husband. Could have been a jealous husband.
Mother-in-law.
Or, maybe a mother-in-law or something. But
somebody who
Devin has just been dealing with a future mother-in-law, so that's why she's going to the mother-in-law theory.
Don't even, no. I love my future mother-in-law.
All right.
I don't think, but I also don't think the mother-in-law, the people in the next door, would have taken a dump and left it in the toilet.
No, I agree, but I definitely agree with you. It could have been a woman.
Probably a woman.
Okay.
Yeah. Probably was.
So if you have...
We agreed.
Yeah.
That never happened.
Sorry, I got thrown off by the high-fiving. Okay, so if you have theories of your own, that's totally understandable. This case really brings it out. Well, you can share those with us. You can do that in a number of different ways. You can go on social media and you could share it on our Facebook page or Facebook group. A lot of people, a lot of discussion. We, when we're talking about social media, we also have our Twitter account, Thinkin' Sideways, and there's also the Reddit account. So there's Reddit on there. So any of those places you can talk about it.
Yeah.
You want to talk with us directly about this? Well, you're more than welcome to do that. You can email us.
What is email?
AIM us.
Yeah, email us. You can do that at thinkingsidewayspodcast@gmail.com. Questions, comments, concerns, all is welcome. It takes a little while to get back to you, but we'll get back to you. You can listen to episodes, just about everywhere at this point. We are on all the major avenues like iTunes and Stitcher and Google Play and all those places. so you can download or you can stream. If you're able to do so, please take the time to leave a comment and a rating. It helps other people find the show. You are also able to do those things, download and stream through our website, as well as see links to some of our research, as well as links directly for merch and our entire episode list, which is a separate page on our website. Website is thinkingsidewayspodcast.com. That is all we have for week number 2 of Halloween. We will be bringing you more creepiness next week.
Some heckin' creepiness.
Creepiness.
That.
But until then, domo arigato.
Sayonara.
Bye.
Thinking Sideways.
I don't understand.
Does not compute.
You never know.
Insufficient data to formulate a reply.
Stories of things we simply don't know the answer to.
Well, hey there, everybody, and welcome to Thinking Sideways. As always, I'm Steve, joined by my beloved co-hosts.
Devin.
And Joe.
Well, hey there.
Well,
Hi,
hey
folks.
there is my signature line.
I know. I'm sorry. I always make fun of it.
I try to be on radio. No, not really. Well, this week, ladies and gentlemen, we've, of course, got another little mysterious story for you, and
It's not just mysterious, it's scary as hell.
Ah!
Yeah.
well, it's funny as I found this and started looking it up, I realized that it's kind of going into territory we've never gone into before, which is cryptozoology.
Actually, we've been there. We've covered the chupacabra quite extensively.
Okay.
Well, not really, but
Yeah. And do fairies count then?
no, I don't think fairies count.
Okay.
We talked about the Yeti or Bigfoot.
We've talked of them,
the
but not
Stay Puft
specifically.
Marshmallow Yeti.
Yeah, that one.
We did.
But I was thinking about it. It's like, why haven't we ever gone into the realm of cryptozoology yet?
We just haven't gotten there yet. We're getting around to it.
Okay.
There's a lot of unsolved mysteries out there, Steve. We have just,
Yeah.
Scratch the surface.
not even touched the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah, and
Not
we only get
even.
to do this once a week. Only once a week do we get to solve a mystery, So there's...
That's true. We don't have enough time to look up all those.
Maybe we should go to 5 days a week.
So anyway,
I don't have time for that.
no,
You have time for that?
No, I do not.
Okay.
Yeah, me
I do
neither.
not. Well, let's go into the story. What we're going to talk about today is the Mongolian death worm.
Yeah.
Dun dun dun.
I love that name.
It does have the most awesome name ever. Death worm. It sounds like a metal band.
It's like the Death Ship,
Yeah.
right? Didn't
Yeah.
we cover the
Or
Death Ship?
The Death Star.
The Death Star. We
Yeah.
haven't covered that one yet.
Oh, I'll do it next week.
I know you will. Well,
Found my story.
if the name of this creature didn't already clue anybody in, it's the Mongolian deathworm is from Mongolia, which, if you don't know your geography, Mongolia is north of China. It's connected to Russia. It's in that whole upper region of the European continent.
Aren't they the
No,
reason
it's
that
not in Europe. It's in Asia. It's like, yeah.
Eurasia.
But
I'm sorry.
yeah. But
Yeah.
they're not, it's not so much connected to Russia, but it borders Russia. And the
Isn't-
Russians sort of ran the country for a long time. Kind of dominated it.
Isn't Mongolia the reason that the Great Wall of China exists?
I
to keep the
believe that the
Mongolians out.
Mongolians were the invaders, yes.
Yeah.
So we'll just do that. Also, for all of you who, need your Mulan references.
All right, well, the Mongolian deathworm, not a creature that you evidently, according to local lore, want to ever meet nor mess with.
Deadly as hell.
Deadly.
That's why they call it the death
Death
worm
worm.
versus the injury room.
Yeah.
Versus
The paper cut worm.
the slight unpleasantness worm. No, it's the death worm.
The mildly annoying worm.
Yeah,
But
no,
yeah,
absolutely.
Let's be
But-
honest, aren't most worms mildly annoying?
A lot of them are kind of gross.
Yeah, they only
Yeah.
come out when it's like wet and rainy out.
I actually really
Yeah.
like regular worms. They do great things in my yard.
No, they do, but when they come
But you
out,
don't-
when they come out of the woodwork and you have to look at them, they're kind of gross.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
No.
How can you tell what their face and what their butt is?
I don't have to, because they're a worm, and I just don't care. I throw them back into the dirt and say, away with you, little one,
Yeah.
and go eat that stuff.
I hope you say that every time you do anything to a worm. Away with you, little one!
I just say, like, ew, I gotta go wash my hands now.
I just wipe them on my pants.
Oh.
Okay, well, here's the thing. We're going to say this right from the outset. The Mongolian deathworm has never been confirmed to exist, so this is truly cryptozoology. No carcass, no live specimen, no pictures of it, no audio, but I don't know what audio a worm would make. So that doesn't exist either.
It'd be like...
and then the sound of a body hitting the ground. Yeah.
Oh, I was going to say it'd be like rumbling underground, right? Because it tunnels underground.
Apparently, it does make ripples in the sand.
I mean, I'm just saying, we've all learned from Dune.
Yeah.
And critters.
Or
not critters, but tremors.
Yeah, that they kind of make the noise.
I kind of do. Have that
Right.
awesome Hollywood sound effect. Well, let's start talking about the deathworm a little bit.
We
We'll
have
get into
been
some
talking about the
specifics about the deathworm.
Oh, okay.
It's really huge, about the size of a Greyhound bus.
No, not actually.
No.
According to the locals who believe in the deathworm, it's, as we said, found in the Mongolian desert, in the Gobi Desert, actually. It's not the Mongolian, but the Gobi Desert. And it only comes out during the hottest month of July, and you're likely to see the deathworm right after a heavy rain.
Just like normal worms.
Yeah.
Just like normal worms.
I wonder how many times they get a heavy rain in the Gobi Desert in June and July.
I don't think it's probably all that often.
Yeah. maybe
That's why you don't see
why
them
you never
ever.
see them, I guess.
Exactly. According to the locals, they call it, and I'm doing my best on this pronunciation, Algoi Korhoi. Probably badly pronounced, but
That sounded pretty good to me.
yeah.
Yeah.
Loosely translated, that translates to intestine worm or large intestine worm. And that's supposed to be in reference to the fact that it's red in color, kind of blood-like, and the size, which is evidently supposed to be about the size of a human intestine. Around? I'm guessing is what they mean, because a human intestine is actually really, really long.
Yeah.
Maybe
yeah,
also long. Maybe. Never mind. I'll bring my theories up later.
Okay. So some say that it has dark red splotches on it, so red spots, darker red spots. It's supposed to be between 2 to 5 feet long, which I believe equates to about 1 to 1.5 meters long. I had to do the math to figure that out.
Why would you
point.
do it into meters?
Yeah, nobody
Because
cares.
everything reported it in meters.
Oh.
So then I remembered what I saw. Sort
Oh,
of.
okay. I see.
And this is a description that really, I don't know how to quantify. It's supposed to be as thick as a man's arm. So does that mean my forearm, my bicep, Schwarzenegger's bicep? Like, I don't know whose arm this is in reference to, but
Well, probably
evidently
the typical
a arm.
Mongolian's arm. And they're probably a little smaller than ours.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. The creature has no scales on its body, so it's got smooth skin. And it doesn't have eyes or a mouth or any kind of sensory organs
Wait, it doesn't have a mouth?
that are visible.
Oh.
People can't tell.
Probably has them, but
Well, and let me get to this next bit, and that'll kind
Okay.
of maybe help this a little bit. It's not, you know how an earthworm, they're tapered and they come to a point on both ends? According to the lore, the deathworm, it ends bluntly at both ends, so it just tapers along, rounds off, and it's done. So it's not as if it's got a flat end and a pointy end. It's the same on both sides. And so people can't tell, according to this, that what end is what. What's the front, what's the back. Just like a regular worm, as you said.
okay.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Now, there are accounts that say that it does have teeth, it does have a mouth, and that mouth is filled with sharp teeth.
Rows and rows of sharp teeth.
Yes, which, when it attacks you, allows it to drill straight through your body.
Yeah, just like spinning around wildly and just like right into you. Yeah,
Like those
right up through the
lampreys?
other side.
It's like the lampreys that we have.
Yeah, they do that kind of
You've been
stuff.
out to the Bonneville Dam, right?
Yeah. Yeah, lampreys
They're all
are
just
disgusting.
Well, you can see their mouths.
Well, they've got a big sucker mouth full of teeth, and then they just kind of drill into something, right? Isn't that how they do that?
Yeah, into the side of fish and stuff like that. Usually, yeah.
Nasty little things.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a brutal way to kill something.
Uh-huh.
And so I never want to meet one of these things
Not what
because
I
it'll
do.
do it to me.
Like when I go deer hunting, I could just like grab them and chew my way through them, their side like that, but I usually shoot them because I'm a nice guy.
Never mind the catching them while running and chewing part.
Yeah, that's kind of
I
hard
just take the
too.
gun because it's more humane.
I think
That's
we're
right.
just learning something about Joe and the fact that he apparently has a rotator drill of a mouth
Yeah, oh yeah.
that we haven't been seeing this whole time.
Well,
Well, I don't want to know what other secrets he's keeping.
I don't
from us
either.
at this point.
Yeah.
what do I show you
let's-
what's in the basement?
Yeah, let's keep going here.
Yeah, good call.
The death worm, it's got quite a few tricks up its sleeve for how it'll defend itself.
Oh, because the drill mouth wasn't enough.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Sure.
The first is that when threatened, it can change its skin color from red to yellow. It can spit poison at its enemy, so it projects some kind of yellowish poison.
Okay.
And as a final topper, oh, by the way, it produces electricity.
It can electrocute you. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Totally electrocute
I
you.
recall reading a tale about some herdsmen reported that it's like zapped an entire herd of camels and
Yep.
killed them all.
Yeah, that was one of the stories that I came across. Let's see, what else have we got here about this worm? I think we've talked about regular earthworms, and it's probably pretty important for people to kind of get an idea what this thing is supposed to look like. Is it doesn't look like a regular earthworm in terms of, earthworms are they're slimy and they're gooey. Well, it can't be a regular earthworm because it's in the desert, and earthworms have really permeable skin to let water in and out. So it's not
Yeah.
like you would think of as the texture. That's why I pointed out it's got no scales but smooth skin.
Well, it might be that
Makes me think that it would be like kind of a dry skin.
it might actually have small scales because nobody ever seems to get too close to this thing. So-
Or really large, something that I will likely be referencing this whole episode long is the dune worms, right? And they didn't have scales per se. It was each section was one
Big
whole
rings.
Rings.
scale,
Yeah.
a ring scale. That would be
And those-
possible too.
And those were handy too because you could catch a ride by hooking your hooks underneath those things
And then drive them.
Yeah,
I
just
totally
drive 'em
was.
down.
As I
bus.
was researching this, I was totally watching that scene on
Yeah.
YouTube. I was,
Yeah.
Oh yeah! Ooh, he rides it up. But I didn't try to pronounce it, to put it in the story because I could not pronounce the word that they used for the worm in Dune.
It's a complicated language.
So it's very complicated, made-up language.
Yeah, I forget. It's been so long since I've read that. Oh, by the way, if there's any listeners out there who are movie directors or movie producers, could you guys do a remake and do it right this time? That would be nice.
Of what, Dune?
Of Dune, yeah.
Oh, okay. Because as you pointed out to me, they made a Mongolian death worm movie.
They did, yeah.
What?
2010.
It
yeah.
looked surprisingly, shockingly like a combination of the worms from Tremors and Dune.
Yeah, it was a lot bigger than our Mongolian death worm.
Yeah, giantly huge. Well, we're way off track already.
Yeah,
Yeah,
kind of a
well-
little bit.
This is going to keep happening, I can tell.
Yep.
Let's see. So Joe had talked about this. There's a bunch of stories about how deadly it is, and Joe had talked about the herd of camel that had
Yeah.
walked over it, and it had shocked the crap out of them and killed them.
From the ground, right? It
Yep.
just stuck its tail up a little bit and...
Well, it was underground, and they walked over the ground and disturbed it.
Oh, and it just went... bzzz.
Yeah, it went. Yeah, that noise. What was that noise? That one right there.
Bing.
There is another story where there was a man in the desert, and he had an iron rod in his hand.
Just for fun.
Yeah,
Jeez.
just
for
sitting
fun.
around bored, poking it in the sand, and suddenly fell over dead. And when his friends came over to see what was going on, there was a Mongolian death worm squirming in the sand where he had been poking the rod. So obviously he had poked it, and it had shocked him and
It
killed
went...
him.
bzzz.
How come they didn't pick up the rod and poke the worm some more?
Maybe because they just seen their friend fall over dead.
Could be. I don't know.
I don't know. in conjunction with the electricity, as we talked about, it has the poison thing going on.
Right.
Which it can spit quite accurately.
It can
and very
spit
long
quite
distances.
accurately, and evidently that whatever toxin that's in it is also on its skin, because if you touch it, it will kill you. So
How?
You absorb it through your skin, and
Yeah.
because it's so super deadly.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
I actually think that, like, cobra venom, isn't it? If you get that stuff on your hand, it will make you sick.
I don't know.
It won't
I've never
kill
tried
you.
that.
No, it won't kill you, but you absorb it,
Yeah.
and it makes you sick. It's like when people get snake venom shot in their eye, and it blinds them temporarily. I think it's the same thing as you absorb it, and your body reacts to it,
Interesting.
which is gross. But it's evidently what this little critter is capable of doing.
Oh, I guess I just kind of envisioned that it would be like really corrosive.
Well,
So it would just kind of like eat its way through your skin into your blood and then just kill you.
And the stories say that the venom is so corrosive that it will corrode iron.
Yeah, so it would. It would just eat its way into your blood system
Yeah.
and then kill you.
Yeah, open
that
up
way.
veins, keep going. It's like alien blood. Remember aliens, the Geiger aliens?
Yeah.
Just like those, get
Okay.
sprayed with that acidic blood, and you bleed out.
Makes
you're,
sense.
You're cooked.
Yep.
Wow. It's a
The-
nasty little customer.
Very. Where does it live? According to the locals, like we said, it's in the Gobi Desert, but they say that they have seen it around the Black Soxal, which is either a bush or a small tree that's in the desert. And they say that you're guaranteed to see a death worm there if there is another plant that is growing there, which is called the desert thumb, or gosh,
Yeah.
I can't remember what language it is. They call it the Tartooth.
Tartooth? Huh.
Yeah, Tartooth, and
Tartooth? I don't know.
I can't remember which language that comes from.
Yeah.
And that evidently has some weird parasitic relationship with the Black Soxal.
Yeah, apparently it likes to grow on the roots of the black soxal.
And they say that when those two are living in conjunction, that's when you're likely to find the Mongolian death worm. And there's been a lot of conjecture of, well, maybe it feeds on the roots of the two, and that's how it makes its poison. I don't know. Again, this is just the story of saying that's where you'll find it, is when
That's
you
so
find
funny,
this and that.
Because in my brain, I was like, wow, I wonder if those trees together like produce a hallucinogen of some kind, and people are just seeing their roots.
It could be.
High
That's
as
like
a kite.
where my brain went, right? They were like, oh, maybe they feed on the roots, and I'm like, they're probably just hallucinating. They're just high.
I gotta tell you, when I get high, I usually choose not to see things like death worms.
I'm glad that you can choose that.
Yeah.
I think
not many
some
people that I know
can't.
of are able to do that. But
Yeah, I usually
on
just
ya.
don't see death worms when I'm doing mushrooms or anything like that.
Well, that's because you're not in Mongolia.
Oh, yeah, maybe. Yeah, maybe
you're on your
Mongolian-
couch watching Tom and Jerry.
Yeah, Mongolians are a little different, I suppose.
There hasn't been a lot written in English for many, many years about the Mongolian death worm. And I think we alluded this a little bit earlier. In part of that is because of the fact that Mongolia was controlled by the Soviets. So anything in their language is not the same. So anything that was translated from Mongolian usually got translated into Russian. And then maybe bits and pieces of it would be about the death worm, and then it could slowly get brought over into English. But the first thing that it was ever written in English about this creature was in 1926 by a professor by the name of Roy Chapman Andrews. Evidently, he traveled to Mongolia. The peoples there told him, there was some high-ranking official that told him about this creature. They offered him some kind of reward if he could find one. But he wrote about it in a book he wrote, which was called On the Trail of Ancient Man. But it was pretty obvious that Andrews didn't believe them, and he didn't actually think it was true, because he wrote about it, but he was real skeptical in his first writing.
Yeah.
He followed up like 6 years later with another book, and he talked about it again, and he added a little bit, but still, he was very pessimistic.
Yeah, I think
I really think it was there.
skeptical is the word you're thinking of, but it's like
Skeptical is the word I'm
I think
thinking
one of
of.
the
Thank you.
one of the things that he noticed is that everybody talked about having a friend of a cousin who had seen one for sure, so everybody believed it, but nobody he ever talked to ever had seen one
Firsthand.
firsthand.
Yeah.
Nobody. And yeah, in fact, no, there's don't know of. But anyway, I'm getting ahead of you.
Well, not too far ahead. That's okay.
Oh, yeah.
We're gonna get a little more into here because there's been a lot of people who have been trying to find the death worm, and those old writings that I talked about from the 20s aren't the only stuff. Once the Soviet Union started to crumble and things started coming out in other writings, that's how we heard about it. So a lot of the stuff that you find, it tends to be repeated.
Well, and we know enough about the Soviet Union and Russia to know that they suppress things all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They know a lot of stuff about aliens and cryptozoology
Of course.
and all that
Yeah.
stuff.
Of course.
And they're just suppressing it, obviously.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
and you know, I talked about the fact that the Mongolian language, the writings have been translated into Russian. Some of that writing had actually been translated by a very specific guy by the name of Ivan Makarov? Makarov?
That's how I
Mackerel?
look at that.
Mackerel, I think that's how you say his name.
Mm-hmm.
And he's a Czech native. He evidently learned about the death worm back in the 1980s. He became enamored with the idea, and he decided that he had to find this creature. And so he started launching expeditions to find it. He made his first trip to the Gobi in 1990. And it obviously wasn't just him. He took along a bunch of people with him. And then he did it again in 1992. And a lot of the stuff that he wrote was obviously things that he had heard from either natives or in writing. But once he went looking for it, well, that's where the whole thing kind of falls apart. Okay, we've been talking about two very specific movie creatures so far.
Yeah.
Dune and Tremors.
Yeah.
Okay. Dune came out in 1984. Tremors came out in 1990.
Movies.
Movies.
The book Dune was around.
Right. Yeah, you're right. I'm talking about the movie.
Sure.
And this guy did his first trip in 1990. He and his fellow researchers evidently were enamored with the movie and believed that it was the key to finding the Mongolian death worm.
Well, the movie was the key?
Uh-huh. Well, and the book and how things happened
Oh,
because...
they thought that it was based on, like,
Oh, they're talking about the...
secret knowledge.
So are these the guys that basically created thumpers like in the book?
That's
Dune?
exactly
Yeah.
right. They would pound on the ground with their hands and feet. They had machines. They were using small explosives to create the thumping to try and call these creatures to the surface. Okay, I know we're all staring at each other kind of dumbfounded here.
Thank you.
Really?
I just realized, again, I have those moments on this show where, like, I will stare at you in this, like, dumbfounded, are you kidding me look,
Yeah.
and then remember, oh, crap, we're recording something. People can't see this face that I'm making. That is the face that I'm making.
Yeah.
Because what?
Yes. They were trying to make their own thumpers because they were convinced that it was just like the creature from the books and the movie Dune.
Not necessarily a really brilliant assumption to make.
No, not the
'cause-
best scientific method
Yeah,
ever.
the thing about the sandworms in Dune is that whenever they caught the slightest vibration, they came zipping along because they wanted to eat you. Mm-hmm. And the Mongolian death worm, it seems, is kind of shy. He might hear the thumping and go the other direction.
Yeah, exactly.
Most likely. I mean, he's not going to come and try to charge up and eat a human being.
Yeah, and there's since Ivan's done his, I think he did 2 or 3 that I know of. Expeditions. There's been at least a dozen that I found record of people going looking for the Mongolian death worm. The last one I think I saw was in 2010 or 2012. Somebody, I think it was from somebody from the Fortean Institute, Fortean Times, which I know I've sent you stuff from.
Yes.
Both of you, which anybody who
Yeah.
hasn't ever gone
I've
to
heard of those
Fortean
guys.
Times, go to Fortean Times. It's kind of a fun read. They have some funny stuff up there. But
Yeah,
they funded an episode or expedition for this people to go out, and people were using ultralights to fly around the area so that they weren't disturbing the ground to try to find them because they were thinking, as Joe was saying, maybe they're really shy and they can tell when you're coming. And maybe it's just that when you're sitting around, you catch them unawares and they surface. I don't know. That's, though, about the extent of the information that we have about the Mongolian death worm.
So
Okay.
there must be some really great theories about this.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And trust me, I found a bunch of fun ones, and I even made one up.
You know, I actually made one up in the spot, too.
I was going to say,
think
I have two. I mean, I have the one I've already told you is that they're high.
I think it's there. What is that? Yeah, but I think it's actually much more sinister than this. I mean, people see the worm and they think, well, we're looking at a 2 to 5 foot long worm here. But what if it's not a worm? What if it's just like the tentacle of some gigantic creature under the ground?
Oh, it's Sand Cthulhu?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Sand Cthulhu.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah, so that's just something I thought I'd throw out there.
I was going to say it's like a leftover from accidental human sacrifices.
Yeah.
It's just actual bits of intestine
Oh,
strewn about.
that's really disturbing.
You're welcome.
Thank you
Yeah.
for sharing that. Can we get to the actual theories and not that disgusting one that you just brought up?
Yeah,
'Cause
something less gross.
Really, I'm thinking. I didn't think of intestines when I said the large intestine worm, but now I am.
You're welcome.
It is grossing me out.
You're welcome.
Oh, by the way, I think I already said this, but just in case,
Yeah.
we said there was like a dozen expeditions, and I think I also covered that nobody's actually found this thing, right?
No. And not only have they not found one, they haven't found a carcass, they haven't found a skeleton.
No
haven't found
evidence.
anything.
Haven't found anything.
Yeah.
Oh, and by the way, this is another fun thing that I've heard, is that the Mongolian deathworm doesn't slither. You know how like a snake slithers along?
Uh-huh.
It either rolls like a sausage down a hill, or it's like, have you ever seen a grub? You dig up a grub and they just kind of flail back and forth. Does
Yeah.
this make sense? You know, they a C shape one way and they flail into a C shape the other. Yeah, that's how it gets around.
Okay. Sounds inefficient, but hey.
Hey, what do you know? What do we know?
Uh-huh.
We're not a venom spitting, electricity producing crazy creature.
Absolutely. But hey,
Well,
this is
not all of us are.
Yeah,
Style doesn't matter at that point.
for those of you who are out there though, who are thinking about going out to the Gobi and looking for these things, I'm going to give you a great clue as to how to find evidence that they exist.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll wait
it-
till the end.
Oh.
Oh, come on.
Oh, you want to hear it now?
Oh, yeah.
How about
Okay.
you create your own evidence?
Well, you can. Yeah, you can do that. Well, here's how to get a clue. I think the black socksaw, which is a small tree or shrub that lives in the Gobi, and of course there's that little thing, the desert thumb, that likes to hang out with the bush. Mm-hmm. And the Mongolian deathworm just loves the hell out of those things. Mm-hmm. So all you got to do is you go to an area where the local natives say that you're likely to find a Mongolian deathworm, and you find these things, and you dig up the sand around these bushes, put it in the large containers, take it back to the lab, soak it in water, drain the water off, distill the water, and the residue left should be an incredible poison, because as these things move through the sand, they are going to leave some
that's
residual
actually, yeah.
some residual chemicals behind on the sand.
Right, because it's on their skin.
Yeah.
It's on their skin. So they're going to leave a residue of this deadly poison. So all you got to do is, like I said, soak the sand, drain it off, distill the water, do some lab analysis on it, and
I
see
think
what kind of deadly chemicals you've got in
the one
there.
flaw in that is assuming that the deadly poison that's on their skin is always there. In other words, they're always damp with it. Because if you're a desert creature, always having moisture on you is a very inefficient means
Well, it
of
is.
surviving.
It is. Well, that's one reason.
So it might be that when you touch them, their reaction is to spurt it out of their pores, because there are critters that when you poke them, they ooze stuff out as a reaction. So it could be that it's not until they feel contact that they put that out. And maybe it is
yeah.
that when they brush against a rock, they automatically put out the poison. But
Maybe.
it
You
just
know-
seems inefficient to have it on them all the time. Well, now that we're done with that, let's go into the theories that I found.
Oh, the real theories?
Well, they're not real. They're
Well,
just theories.
Okay.
But here's the basic first theory. The whole thing's a fake. The whole thing doesn't
really?
actually exist. I mean, this is a viable thing that we have to look at, is that it's not real. It could be that it's a story that is just a tall tale that over the years has just gotten bigger and bigger and bigger with each retelling,
Yeah.
so that it's taken on all these fantastical abilities when it never actually existed. I mean, it could have been just one of those things that parent in the desert, so you're a nomad with your children in the desert, and you say
it to your
we've
kid.
stopped, don't wander away, or the death worm will get you.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say that it's probably one of those stories that parents tell their kids to scare the crap out of them.
Exactly.
And permanently traumatize them, but at least they don't wander off into the desert and get killed.